Rulebook. Discipline. Focus. Control. Identity strength. Part 1, Understanding Your Energy. Part 2, The Rules of Self-Mastery. Part 3, Sexual Energy and Intentional Discipline. Master yourself. Master relationships. Master legacy. Important notice: this book is for personal development and educational purposes only. The authors and publishers are not licensed medical professionals, therapists, psychologists, or healthcare providers. Nothing in this book constitutes medical advice, mental health guidance, or clinical recommendations. The practices discussed in Part 3, including celibacy and sexual energy redirection, are personal lifestyle choices presented as optional frameworks for self-discipline, not prescriptions or requirements. Individual experiences vary. If you have concerns about your physical or mental health, please consult a qualified healthcare professional. Read this book as a mindset and behavioral framework, not a substitute for professional support. A letter to the reader. You are leaking energy right now. Probably in more ways than you realize. Not just physically, though that is part of it. You are leaking energy through every distraction you follow without thinking. Every impulse you act on without pausing. Every habit loop you run on autopilot. Every hour you spend consuming instead of creating. Every urge that pulls your attention away from what you actually said you wanted to build. Most people live their entire lives this way, not because they are lazy or weak, but because nobody ever taught them to think about their energy as something finite, directable, and powerful. They were taught to manage their time, their money, their relationships. But their energy, the actual fuel behind everything they do, was left unexamined. This book exists to change that. What you are holding is a 3-part framework for taking back control of the most valuable resource you have. Part 1 explains what energy actually is in this context and why most people squander it without knowing it. Part 2 gives you 12 deep, practical rules for building real self-mastery, impulse control, habit replacement, focus, identity, and the kind of discipline that changes everything it touches. Part 3 goes deeper into one specific area that many people avoid talking about honestly: sexual energy, and the intentional practices of celibacy and energy redirection that some people choose as a path to heightened focus, discipline, and purpose. Part 3 is not for everyone. It does not need to be. Parts 1 and 2 alone will fundamentally change how you think about discipline and focus. But if Part 3 speaks to you, if you have been curious about these practices or already walking this path, you will find the honest, practical, non-judgmental framework you have been looking for. He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still. Lao Tzu's self-mastery is not about becoming a monk. It is not about suppressing who you are or denying yourself the things that make life worth living. It is about becoming someone who chooses, deliberately, consciously, with full awareness, rather than someone who simply reacts. That distinction, between reacting and choosing, is the entire game. What energy actually means. When most people hear the word energy, they think of caffeine, sleep, or how tired they feel at 3 p.m. That is physical energy, real, but only one layer of what we are talking about. Physical energy: this is the most obvious layer. It is determined by sleep, nutrition, movement, hydration, and recovery. Most people understand this one intellectually and ignore it practically. They stay up too late, eat poorly, sit all day, and then wonder why they cannot focus or follow through on the things they care about. Physical energy is the foundation. You cannot build discipline, focus, or creative output on a depleted physical base. Everything else in this book becomes harder when your body is not taken care of. Mental energy: this is the capacity to think clearly, make decisions, and maintain focus over time. Mental energy is depleted by decision fatigue, the accumulated weight of too many choices. By context switching, moving rapidly between tasks, apps, conversations, and demands. By consuming more than you create. By spending time with information that does not serve you. The average person makes thousands of micro-decisions every day. Most of them are unconscious. All of them cost something. Mental energy is finite, and most people spend it on things that do not matter before they ever get to the things that do. Emotional energy. This is the capacity to regulate your internal state, to feel something without being controlled by it. Emotional energy is depleted by unresolved conflict, suppressed feelings, chronic stress, and the relentless performance of being fine when you are not. People with low emotional energy are reactive. Small things feel large. Frustration surfaces quickly. Patience disappears. The reason is not weakness, it is depletion. And the solution is not to feel less. It is to build the capacity to feel without being swept away. Sexual energy. This is the layer most people either dismiss entirely or become obsessed with, and very few think about clearly. Sexual energy is one of the most powerful motivational forces in human experience. It drives creativity, ambition, connection, and vitality when it is channeled intentionally. When it is scattered, through compulsive behavior, pornography, or mindless indulgence, it can quietly drain the focus, drive, and clarity of the person who is not paying attention. We will address this layer directly in Part 3. For now, understand that it exists, it is significant, and it deserves the same intentional approach you would bring to any other form of energy management. The leak problem here is the core issue. Energy leaks are invisible until you look for them. A leak is anything that consistently drains your energy without giving you something valuable in return. Mindless scrolling is a leak. Staying in conversations that go nowhere is a leak. Acting on every impulse the moment it arises is a leak. Allowing your environment to constantly pull your attention away from what matters is a leak. None of these feel catastrophic in the moment. That is what makes them dangerous. They are small, constant, and cumulative. And over time, a person who never addresses their leaks wonders why they feel tired, unfocused, and like they are not moving forward despite trying hard. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Your energy management is one of those systems. Why most people never address this? Before we get to the rules, it is worth understanding why this work is uncommon. Impulse is the default. Human beings are wired for immediate response. Our nervous systems evolved in environments where quick reaction to threat and opportunity was the difference between survival and death. That wiring does not disappear just because the threats are now notifications and the opportunities are dopamine hits from a screen. Impulse feels natural because it is natural. Choosing differently requires something that does not come automatically. It requires a practiced pause, a moment of awareness between stimulus and response. That gap is where self-mastery lives. And building it takes deliberate, repeated effort. The environment is designed against you. The digital world you live in is engineered by some of the most sophisticated behavioral scientists and product designers in history, with one goal: to capture and hold your attention as long as possible. Every notification, every infinite scroll, every autoplay video, every algorithm-curated feed is optimized to make impulse control harder. This is not conspiracy. It is business. And understanding it changes how you approach your own environment. You are not fighting your weakness. You are fighting systems designed by professionals to exploit human psychology. That requires intentional design of your own environment in response. Nobody teaches this. Schools teach academic subjects. Families teach values when they are intentional. But the specific skills of impulse control, energy management, habit replacement, and focus discipline are rarely taught explicitly to anyone. Most people figure it out through painful experience, or they never figure it out at all. This book is an attempt to make the learning less painful and more deliberate. The rules. 12 principles. Not suggestions. Not inspiration. Rules built to be practiced, not just read. Rule 01: You are not your impulses, you are your decisions. An impulse is a signal. A decision is a choice. They are not the same thing, and confusing them is one of the most expensive mistakes a person can make. When you feel the urge to check your phone for the 14th time in an hour, that is an impulse. When you pick it up, that is a decision. The impulse is automatic. The decision does not have to be. Most people live as though impulses and decisions are the same, as though feeling something means doing it. The entire foundation of self-mastery is the understanding that there is a space between stimulus and response, and that space is where your character lives. Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Viktor Frankl. In practice, for the next 48 hours, practice naming your impulses before you act on them. Not to suppress them, just to see them. I feel the urge to check social media. I feel the urge to eat even though I am not hungry. I feel the urge to avoid this difficult task. Naming the impulse creates the pause. The pause creates the choice. The impulse does not control you. Your response to it does. Rule 02: Design your environment before you test your willpower. Willpower is a limited resource. Environment is a permanent structure. Build the structure so the willpower is rarely needed. Most people try to use willpower to resist temptations that are constantly present in their environment. They want to eat better, but the junk food is in the kitchen. They want to use their phone less, but it is on their desk face up. They want to avoid certain content online, but they have no systems to make it harder to access. This is the hard way. The easier way, not easy, but easier, is to design your environment so that the right behavior is the path of least resistance and the wrong behavior requires deliberate effort. Remove triggers. Add friction to bad habits. Reduce friction for good ones. In practice, identify your 3 biggest discipline leaks right now. For each one, ask, what change to my environment would make this harder to fall into? Put your phone in another room. Delete the apps. Rearrange your space. Environment design is self-mastery made physical. Win in the environment before the battle of willpower begins. Rule 03: Redirect energy. Never just suppress. IT suppression creates pressure. Pressure finds release. Redirection gives energy somewhere productive to go. This is one of the most practically important principles in the book. When you try to eliminate a behavior through pure resistance, through gritting your teeth and white-knuckling it, you are fighting your own energy. And energy does not disappear just because you tell it to. Every urge carries force. That force can be directed toward destruction, distraction, or creation. The person who channels the energy behind a strong craving into an intense workout, a creative project, or focused work has not suppressed anything. They have redirected something powerful into something useful. You cannot swim for new horizons until you have courage to lose sight of the shore. William Faulkner. In practice, create a personal redirection menu, a list of activities you can turn to when a strong impulse arises. Physical training. A creative outlet. Deep work on an important project. Learning something. The list should be ready before the impulse arrives, because when the impulse arrives is not the time to think of what to do instead. The energy behind every impulse is raw material. Direct it deliberately. Rule 04: Replace habits. Do not just remove them. A habit removed without a replacement leaves a void. Voids get filled, usually with whatever is easiest, which is often what you just tried to quit. Every habit, good or bad, follows a loop. A cue triggers a craving, which drives a routine, which delivers a reward. When you remove the routine without addressing the cue or replacing the reward, the loop does not disappear. It waits. This is why people who quit one bad habit often pick up another. The structure of the habit remained, only the behavior in the middle changed temporarily. Real habit change requires understanding what the cue is, what reward the habit is delivering, and what alternative behavior could deliver a similar reward without the cost. In practice, pick one habit you want to change. Map it. What triggers it? What does it give you? Stress relief, stimulation, comfort, distraction. Now find a replacement behavior that delivers a similar reward through a better route. The replacement does not have to be perfect. It has to be ready when the cue fires. Remove and replace. Never just remove. Rule 05: Build discipline in private before it shows in public. The most important choices you make are the ones no one will ever see. Discipline practiced in public is performance. Discipline practiced in private is identity. The moment when no one is watching, when there is no accountability, when you could easily choose comfort over commitment, that is the moment that actually builds character. What you do when the choice costs you something real and delivers no external recognition is who you actually are. Most people focus on the visible parts of discipline: the workout they post, the habit they announce, the goal they share publicly. Those things have value. But the private choices, the ones made at 11 p.m. when you are tired, or first thing in the morning when everything in you wants to stay in bed, those are what accumulate into the person others eventually see. The true secret of giving advice is, after you have honestly given it, to be perfectly indifferent whether it is taken or not. Hannah Whittle Smith. In practice, identify one private discipline practice that you will commit to for the next 30 days. Something no one will see, track, or praise you for. Show up for it perfectly. Notice what happens to your sense of self. Who you are in private is who you actually are. Rule 06: awareness always comes before control. You cannot change what you cannot see. And most people cannot see their own patterns clearly. The first stage of self-mastery is not discipline. It is observation. Before you can redirect an impulse, you have to notice it arising. Before you can change a habit, you have to see the loop running. Before you can manage your energy, you have to recognize where it is going. Most people are on autopilot for the majority of their day. They react, consume, and move through their hours without ever stepping back to observe their own behavior from the outside. Developing that observer, the part of you that can watch yourself without judgment, is the foundation of everything else in this book. Know thyself. Socrates. In practice, spend 1 week doing nothing but observing your patterns without trying to change them. When do you reach for distraction? What triggers your worst habits? When is your focus sharpest? When does it collapse? Write it down. Awareness, practiced consistently, begins to change behavior on its own. Observation is the first act of mastery. Rule 07: small consistent wins build identity. You do not build discipline through one great act of willpower. You build it through 1,000 small choices that tell you and your brain who you are. Identity is not something you declare. It is something you accumulate through evidence. Every time you do what you said you would do, even something small, you add a piece of evidence to the case that you are a disciplined person. Every time you do not, you add evidence to the opposite case. This is why starting with small, completable commitments matters more than starting with large, ambitious ones. The person who says, "I will meditate for 5 minutes every day," and does it for 6 months has built something more valuable than the person who commits to an hour a day and quits after a week. The evidence accumulates. The identity solidifies. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. Aristotle. In practice, identify the smallest possible version of a discipline practice you want to build. So small it seems almost pointless. Do it every day for 30 days without missing. At the end of 30 days, you will have proven something to yourself that cannot be argued with. Small wins are not small. They are the building blocks of identity. Rule 08: protect your focus like it is your most valuable asset, because it is. Everything you want to build in your career, your relationships, your health, your finances requires sustained focus to build it. Focus has become rare. The world is engineered to fragment it. And because it is rare, it has become extraordinarily valuable. The person who can sit with a problem, a project, or a conversation for extended periods without fracturing their attention has a genuine advantage in almost every domain of life. Focus is not just about productivity. It is about depth. The ability to go deep into something, a relationship, a skill, an idea, a creative work, is what produces the things in life that actually matter. Shallow engagement produces shallow results. Depth produces mastery. In practice, block 1 period of completely undistracted focus each day, phone off, notifications silenced, single task, door closed if possible. Start with 25 minutes. Build to 90. Guard this time like it is the most important meeting of your day, because it is. Scattered attention produces scattered results. Guard your focus. Rule 09: recover with intention. Rest is not weakness. Sustainable discipline includes recovery. Burnout is not a badge of honor. It is a failure of planning. There is a version of discipline that looks like relentless pushing, never resting, always grinding, treating any rest as laziness. This version burns people out, produces diminishing returns, and often ends in a complete collapse of the very habits it was trying to build. Real discipline includes knowing when to recover. Sleep, silence, time away from screens and demands, creative rest, physical recovery. These are not rewards for hard work, they are requirements for sustained performance. The person who rests intentionally can push harder and longer than the person who never stops until they collapse. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. And Lamat in practice, design your rest with the same intentionality you bring to your work. What does genuine recovery look like for you? Not numbing out with screens, actual restoration. Schedule it. Protect it. Treat it as a non-negotiable part of your discipline, not the absence of it. Rest is part of discipline. Build it in or watch everything else fall apart. Rule 10: Do not negotiate with your commitments. The moment you start asking yourself whether you feel like honoring a commitment, you have already made the decision harder than it needs to be. Commitment is a decision made in advance. Its entire value comes from the fact that it does not get re-evaluated every time the situation becomes inconvenient. A commitment that gets renegotiated every morning based on how you feel is not a commitment. It is a preference. The people who build real discipline stop negotiating. They made the decision. The decision stands. The question is not, do I feel like doing this today? It is, when am I doing this today? That shift, from whether to when, is one of the most practically powerful changes in how you approach your commitments. It's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Rocky Balboa in practice, audit your current commitments. For each one, ask, is this a real commitment or a preference? Real commitments get scheduled and honored regardless of mood. Preferences get done when convenient. Be honest about which is which and then decide which you want to be the kind of person who keeps. Decide once. Honor it every time. That is discipline. Rule 11: Progress is measured in return, not perfection. You will fail. The question is not whether, it is how quickly you return. Nobody builds perfect discipline. Nobody runs a flawless streak indefinitely. Life interrupts. Stress hits. Old patterns resurface. The person who treats a single slip as proof that they have failed and uses it as permission to abandon everything will never build anything lasting. The measure of your discipline is not whether you always do the right thing. It is how long it takes you to return when you do not. A person who slips and returns the next day is building something. A person who slips and spirals for a week is not. The return is the practice. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. Japanese proverb in practice, create a personal rule for setbacks, a 24-hour return policy. Whatever happened yesterday, today you return. No extended guilt. No dramatic narrative about failure. You missed a day. You return today. That is it. It is not the fall that defines you. It is the return. Rule 12: Mastery in one area builds mastery everywhere. Discipline is not compartmentalized. It is a character trait, and character traits show up across your entire life. The person who builds genuine discipline in their physical training finds that it spills into their work habits. The person who masters their morning routine finds that they make better decisions throughout the day. The person who develops emotional regulation finds that their relationships improve without directly trying to improve them. This is not coincidence. Discipline is fundamentally about the relationship between you and your own commitments. When that relationship strengthens in one area, it strengthens everywhere because it is the same relationship. Mastery is not a function of genius or talent. It is a function of time and intense focus applied to a particular field. Robert Greene in practice, choose one area of your life where you will build discipline first. Not because the other areas do not matter, but because starting with one and doing it completely will build the foundation that makes everything else easier. Go deep in one place. Watch it spread. Build it in one place. Watch it grow everywhere. The hard questions. 3 sets of questions, one for each part. Answer all of them. The uncomfortable ones most of all. Part 1. Your energy. Where is my energy actually going each day, and is that where I want it going? The biggest energy leak in my life right now that I have been ignoring. What my life would look like if I addressed that leak for 90 days. Part 2. Your discipline. If you had complete control over your impulses for the next 30 days, what areas of your life would improve first? And what does that tell you about where your discipline is currently failing you? The areas that would improve first. What that tells me about where I am losing control right now. The one discipline practice I have been avoiding because I know it would change things. Part 3. Your relationship with sexual energy. Answer these honestly. No one is reading this but you. My honest assessment of how my sexual habits affect my energy and focus, whether there is a practice in Part 3 I want to explore, and why, what I am willing to commit to, and for how long. Quick reference. Return to this before every significant decision about your habits, focus, or energy. Rule 01. You are not your impulses. The impulse does not control you. Your response to it does. Rule 02. Design your environment first. Win in the environment before the battle of willpower begins. Rule 03. Redirect. Never just suppress the energy behind every impulse as raw material. Direct it. Rule 04. Replace habits, not just remove them. Remove and replace. Never just remove. Rule 05. Build discipline in private. Who you are in private is who you actually are. Rule 06. Awareness before control. You cannot change what you cannot see. Rule 07. Small consistent wins build identity. Small wins are the building blocks of identity. Rule 08. Protect your focus. Scattered attention produces scattered results. Rule 09. Recover with intention. Rest is part of discipline. Build it in. Rule 10. Do not negotiate with commitments. Decide once. Honor it every time. Rule 11. Progress is measured in return. It is not the fall that defines you. It is the return. Rule 12. Mastery spreads. Build it in one place. Watch it grow everywhere. Reflection. Write honestly. Vague answers produce vague results. Where I currently lose control of my focus or habits most often, the situation or trigger that weakens my discipline the most, the replacement behavior I will use when that trigger fires, what my life looks like in 1 year if I apply this consistently, what it looks like in 1 year if I do not. 48-hour action commitment. One specific moment. One specific practice. Right now. The moment in the next 48 hours where I will choose awareness over impulse, the specific thing I will do instead of reacting, my 30-day self-mastery commitment. Pass it forward. Self-mastery modeled is more powerful than self-mastery taught. The principle from this book that has already shifted something for me, who in my life needs to hear this most, how I will share it, through words or through example. Personal commitment. I understand that self-mastery is not a destination, it is a daily practice. I take full responsibility for my impulses, my habits, my energy, and my focus. I commit to building awareness before action, to replacing what I remove, to protecting my attention like the valuable resource it is, and to returning quickly when I fall. I choose, every day, to be the person who decides, not the person who simply reacts. Legacy Covenant. Sign this as a commitment to the version of yourself you are building and to everyone who will be shaped by who you become. I accept full responsibility for my discipline and my energy. I understand that my impulses do not define me, my decisions do. I commit to building awareness, to redirecting energy with intention, to replacing habit with habit, and to never negotiating with the commitments I have made to myself. I will build the kind of self-mastery that shows in everything I do, not through perfection, but through consistent return. This is my covenant with the person I am becoming. The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. Plato.